Welcome. You remember that from AOL? Anyway, so let's get started. I had a bit of an audio issue, so you'll hear me speaking through this microphone versus the microphone through the laptop, so it'll bounce back and forth. So what we have here is a mix that's really close to where we want it to be. So there's some issues you will hear here and there, and we'll go back through and address those. But keep in mind that we're just listening strictly to the band and not to the vocals. So something that you may not like now may be a big difference when we actually introduce vocals and the rest of the room mics. So let's check it out. So starting out, I want to make sure I mute or disable the plugins on each of these channels here, so we'll get a good idea of how we want it to sound or how it does sound. We'll get to how to use buses too. I'm primarily a live engineer, so I prefer my mixes to sound natural and live more so than over processed. You'll get that theme with me more so. My philosophy is this supposed to sound like what it's supposed to sound like, man. Don't mess it up. So here we go, just a dry listen. Take a listen. Taste a listen. I guess so. If you're synesthetic, taste a listen. Well, I am. So anyway. All right, so that's with most of the EQs disabled. The plugins disabled on those channels. Now keep in mind my bus output, my main bus output, as you can see, still has all of those active, and we'll revisit that to give you more of an honest representation of like completely flat and dry. I should have done that, but I didn't. I apologize, but I'll show you later on. So now let's take a listen to everything being enabled, and let's see what we don't like and what we need to do. All right, that was a quick listen. We'll start the breakdown from here, but notice how those keys are pretty loud. I'll show you why once the vocal mics get into it. So stay tuned. Let's get started. Pay attention. I'm a little long-winded, but I like to be thorough. So let's make it. All right, I was having a little audio problem here. So let's try to start. I mixed for a long time, man, just to figure out that you all couldn't hear what I was doing. Terrible. So what we're gonna do then is we're gonna start over, bro. We're gonna start over. All right, here we go. So this is All Nations Church, Fairfield in Birmingham, Alabama. Bishop Jonathan L. Woods Sr. is the pastor here, man. Great band, great backup singers, man. They're consistent. As you'll hear from here, I'll let you all be the judge. So I'm gonna start mixing. I'm not gonna do much talking. I may interject from time to time, man, to kind of give my insight on why I choose to do things. So let's go from there. We're going to listen to a song called Lord You Reign. I think that's the name of the song. I just name songs by how often you say certain words. So let's go from there. Here we go. This is an actual church service as well. Yeah, I'm going to leave some of the vocals up just so you can have an idea of what's going on inside the room. The church was originally, you could say, somewhat of a cathedral, really tall ceilings, rounded ceilings, pretty big spacious room. You can say it's a challenging room just from the acoustic standpoint. So you'll definitely hear some of the issues that we're going to run into with trying to make sure we mix for live as well as broadcast. And then you hear some of the issues once you get inside the studio for trying to make sure live and broadcast is taken care of. We're going to start from there, so let's start on drums. As you can see, I've already been mixing a little bit, but I'm going to walk through why I did what I did. Don't judge me, I'm going to buy it eventually. All right, depending on my time frame is how I start off mixing. Most of the time, I take the approach that I would live, get my levels right, get like a rough mix, and then I start to go back and fix things that I don't like, and then I become more surgical once I polish the actual sound that I'm looking for. Man, I was struggling there. Let's get to work. So we're going to start off with drums first. So we'll be able to go through some things that I've already done and I'll explain why I did them. Let's go. Oh, by the way, this was multi-tracked on a Behringer Wing, so a few of the plugins may still be active. I forgot to check. Yeah, so this is just EQ. Oh yeah, heads up, this drummer's not playing. He's gonna give it to you. All right, so we just ran a high pass filter up about around 30 hertz. If you can hear that, if you have your headphones on, you hear just that sub frequency right there to kind of clean some of that up. Add a little bump here at 44 hertz. Yeah. That's where your knock is. Too much knock, it sound like your speakers are over excursioning. Not enough, it just sound tubby. Here, the bunch of racket, as I like to call it. But with the fab filter, you can actually change the slope. Oh yeah, now you can hear the difference. Changing the slope comes in handy, but too much, you're introducing a little bit of phasing into it. Let's take a listen to the difference again. Yeah, it's a big difference. All right, now that I have it EQ'd somewhat like I want it, now you can use, I like to use the Waves NLS, but you can use Logic's gain, which is just real transparent, but I don't want transparent. I wanted something with some character. So that's why I chose the NLS plugin from Waves. It's worth it. So I got mixed the way I want to, but now I want to bring it up. Now it's modeled after certain consoles, so when you switch between, you'll notice a difference. C2 is just, I'm going to buy it, leave me alone. Yep. So this is really just to start getting a little control over the bass, since now that we brought the gain up. Before we actually start doing something else to it, we want to make sure we get it under control. You see how it's starting to tighten it up a little bit? All right, so here's before and after with just these three. Yeah, we're starting to make a little progress. All right, let's start cleaning up this kick a little bit. Let's bring up this room killer. It's probably doing a little bit more than I like, but once you add everything else in, you'll start to get an idea of why you wanted that clean. All right, here we go. Let's add the gate. Yep, by fat filter. All right, so return the gate on. Now when you hit audition, you're telling the gate when to actually start working. Only work here. This is when I need you to open up. Using keys on your gate will absolutely save you a lot of trouble in the live environment, especially if the drums are in an enclosure. We're going to go back and fix that click later. That click, the gate's not opening up fast enough. Word of advice, don't clip your plugins. Don't do it. It only cause trouble toward the end. So I was trying something new on the snare and I do not like it. But we're going to leave it like that and we're going to come back and visit it. Hold on, did it reset? Did it change? It did. All right, whatever, bro. We'll get you done. All right, let's do snare and kick together. I just used the SSL just to kind of see how I liked it. We're going to come back to this API. Wonderful, wonderful plugin. Let's do a boost here and there. I hear some ringing I don't like, but that's what that fab filter is for, to get more, use precision. Yeah, I hear those overtones. Cook, 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 cook. Cook, cook, cook. Cook, cook. There it is. Not done yet. We're starting to peak just a tad bit. Let me take 1 dB off of this. Let's see here, kind of keep everything under control. You hear cook, 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 cook. Yeah, you're laughing, but it's there. Some more overtones somewhere. We're going to clean up some more of them. Let's do a quick before and after. Let's clean these overheads up a little bit. Let's try to clean up that splashiness a little bit. Now that I'm working on that, I really want to hear what's going on in this room because it's going to be very important in trying to maintain a natural sound. All right, so let's listen to the room with the drums without the overhead EQ and without the room mic EQs. The room mics are KSM 137s that they use for the choir. They're not being used right now, so they're closer to the drums. So for all my synesthetic brethren, let's taste a listen to what's going on here. See what I did there? That high pass filter really helped to clean up the drums and what was going on. Now you may say, man, I like how punchy it is with the room mics. But once you add everything in, you will definitely lose definition.
Yes, God, we're gonna have a good time in the Spirit tonight. Hallelujah.
All right, a little bit of natural room reverb. Let's hit this first tom right here. Let's see what we have. EQ. So we're gonna listen to this. Yeah, let's keep listening. It helps to sing it out sometime too. Don't judge me. All right, we're trying to clean it up so we can get going. Remember, we're gonna revisit it. Just the character, man, of these Kramers, man, man, great. So then we'll add a gate. Man, those Kramers add a lot of attack. Just personal preference, but remember, we're gonna get back to it, bring those levels up, level everything off. All right, let's hit this 12-inch tom. Let's go here. Yeah, I'm still taking my live approach here to get it leveled off, EQ'd a little bit. Getting rid of all that, just the splat. We don't want our toms to sound like saran wrap over cardboard. We don't want that. Or for my synesthetic people, we don't want to sound or taste like chalk off a chalkboard. You ever tried to clean it? Okay, anyway. TMI, but almost like a chalky taste. This right here. Chalk. Almost like eating spinach. Compression for control. Yeah, the attack is there. We're going to use that gate to clean it up. Tell the gate, hey, don't start working until you actually hear this. Don't work until you hear this. We're getting there. Don't worry, we're going to go back and polish it. So let's hit this floor tom. It's 16 inch. I always forget if it's 14 or 16, but that's when I was saying earlier when my audio messed up. Know your drums, or at least try to learn and listen to a few things on YouTube about, the different woods that's used between like birch, um, maple, Catalina maple, mahogany, babinga, because it makes a difference. It really does, and it'll help you out to say, "Oh, okay, I know how." Usually, it sounds that with heads, whether it be clear coat heads, G2 heads, or Remo Emperor, man, Evans G2, and it depends, man. It'll really help you with speed mixing or getting an understanding of how it should sound, and then even if you don't like the way it sounds, getting an idea, and I can get the sound the way I want to. Did all my EQs just go to default? Did all of them go to default? I was gonna say, you jerk. All right, listen to 16 inch. Let's get the 16-inch tom. No, I don't need that. This is what the body is, and this is usually what the trash is, which you don't need. So we're gonna use slope. Usually I don't, cause sometimes if you use too much of it, it'll start to make it sound weird. But again, we'll go back and we'll polish. All right, we're getting there. A little upward expansion here. Let's clean that up a tad bit more. All right, let's do it before and after. Big difference. Let's clean it up a little bit more. Can't have a flow tone without body. Yeah, we're definitely going to come back to this and add a little bit more gain to it. We may use the Apple gain or Logic gain, or use one of the NLS strips to kind of give it like a a preamp emulation. So we'll definitely get back, but we have somewhere to go. Let's keep moving. All right, so let's check out our progress. All right, let's hit this bass. We're getting somewhere. We'll come back to these drums. Sometimes I kind of, every so often now I change up like, I can't get that to stick out in this mix. And I may change, and oftentimes I may just say, hey, I'm going to get it closest to how they have their guitar tuned, or you know what I mean, their signature bass sound, and I just make it louder. See what I mean right here? And I'll just clean it on up a little bit. Now, this plugin I like to use is a wonderful tool, but it can be a hindrance if you just use it to kind of make up for your mistakes all the time and try to let it work too hard instead of putting in the work. So the way this plugin works, you just tell it when you want it to start working. You set your target range, and then you'll say, hey, this is where I want you to start up here in your target, and then this is the range in which I want you to work in. Let's tell it, give it a little bit of spill, some artifacts, low sensitivity. We want it to sound natural. I want you to work, but just not too much. It's a little bit more sub energy than I want, and I'll show you why later while I'm doing this. Let's hit this organ a little bit. Listen to how much energy is coming through that Leslie, that bottom Leslie mic. If you can, get the Leslie out of the sanctuary, and I'm going to show you why. Have a listen to this. The amount of low end coming through that mic, trying to catch the lower half of that Leslie, will wreak havoc. Doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, accumulation. All right, a little something that I do because I already know how I want it to sound is that I need it in stereo. If you can, always put your organ in stereo, and I'm going to prove to you why. Undoubtedly, if you're competent, mixing your organ in stereo will sound better, hands down, than mono, and I'll prove it. And I'm going to use stereo spreader to prove it. Take a listen. It's a little phasey. Oh, we're getting there. Listen. Listen to how it sits in the mix better. Remember, stereo helps set the sound stage, and stereo will always give you more flexibility. And you will notice that once we actually start polishing the mix. Let me just add a little bit of compression here to get it going, just to stay under control. We'll go back. Listen to how much better the organ sits inside the mix after compression. Of course, we need to bring the levels down to match, but just listen to it. I'm gonna let it play because it's starting to get annoying listening to it over and over again. I can do that just because I'm used to it, but just for the sake of the listeners, I'm not gonna keep doing that. One side is definitely hotter than the other, or the gains don't match. So you can still use Apple's version, or you can use, I prefer the NLS from Waves just because it adds character. And I paid for it. And sometimes I don't use it, only if I don't like the way it sounds. Seems to be a lot cleaner. If you know, then you know who this is modeled after. All right, I got rid of this because this will eat your mix alive, and I'll show you why. One reason is you'll catch yourself hitting your compressor a lot sooner. And when you start hitting your compressor a lot sooner, you start to squeeze and it starts to take definition and clarity out. Probably because pads are more akin to sine tones than something that's dynamic, like a piano. Really warm. You may like the sound of it, but live, you just that build up in energy. A lot of times in rooms, it'll cause feedback faster, or to sound like there's feedback going on, but it's not. And then when you get to broadcast and all that, just it makes it muddy and real thick. All right, I hear you. You would be okay about it. Now, do you see how those frequencies start to build up? So that's where we are right now. So let's have a listen to where we came from. You probably get a better idea of how those frequencies start to build up. That's why I was cutting earlier. Always good to step back and listen to progress. If you find yourself hitting the limiter or starting to clip, just select all the channels at once and bring it down. That way you don't have to adjust your mix one by one. All right, so we'll just select all of it at once and bring it down, because we're going to start adding volume when we start adding more plugins and whatnot. So this is where I start busting stuff out, because I took this from another session that's already polished, because I want to start over fresh instead of just trying to go back and explain what I did. And so what we're doing now is started from scratch, but then we'll pick up on the other one and I'll kind of explain where I start to fine tune and just get surgical with. Just went with this Stephen just say surgical and then went back and polish. So mix, get surgical, then polish. All right, so on output bus, all I did was say, hey, give me a little Soto enhance on the stereo. Oh, the click track. There's a lot going on in this click track, and this will be the last one we do before we get to like vocals and stuff. Sometimes I like to mix with jazz, might lead up a little bit so I can still get that feeling energy what's going on and mix accordingly. Now, what I have learned out of experience, using a favorite plug-in of mine, it boosts this 20K through the roof. So I'm going to kind of snip some of this away, and I'll show you that on the polish front. Huge secret: if you want your click track to sound fantastic, mix it at the venue. You hear this? This is the buildup I was saying between the keys and the click. We'll get to that. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. Now, notice how when we were listening to just this by itself, we were like, oh, okay, man, it's coming along pretty well. really hate the way their snare sounds, but anyway. Right, but once we add the room mics in, you'll notice that the definition and everything that you have will start to change because now you're adding ambience. Now notice when I started adding in the vocals and the room mics, the drums sound like they're getting pushed further and further away. You're going to start running into that issue once I started bringing up the vocals along with the room mics. If you can't isolate your sources, you're going to run into an issue to where everything on stage is going to pick up each other and it's going to sound less distinctive. It's going to sound further away and it's going to sound washed out for a number of reasons, mainly because of phase and delay, because you have multiple instruments coming through multiple microphones located in different locations on the stage, not including vocal mics and what they tend to do with them when they're not singing. So it can wreak havoc. So let me show you an example of direct sound sources as best as possible versus introducing microphones from different locations inside the room and how it'll affect your sound and your mix. All right, so this would be isolated instruments. All right, I'm going to start adding some room. The issue will only amplify the more you turn it up. Don't judge these vocals, they haven't been mixed yet. They sound pretty good. See what I mean? No ambience versus ambience. You start to lose definition. All right, you see how we're starting to get there? We're starting to build our mix there. Usually I would fly through this just because I take the knowledge of the head. I know how I want it to sound. I know how the instruments sound most of the time. I have an idea what's going on because I'm usually there when I'm multi-track. You know what? Let's go ahead and hit these vocals. Let's go ahead.
Let it rain on me. Let it rain. Let it rain. There's a river running and it never will run dry. Lord rain. Lord rain. The floodgates are open and it never will run dry. Lord rain. Lord rain.
Yeah, it is a lot of them. On average on Sunday, it's maybe 10 of them on stage. So benefits, you get a better sound. Downside, it's a lot more work. All right, this is just a high pass filter to start cleaning everything up.
Release your favor. Release your favor, Lord, let it rain on me. So release your power, Lord, let it rain on me. So release your glory, Lord, let it rain.
All right, check this out. So this is going to be real generic. It's going to be real generic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do one compressor on one voice. See how I like that?
Let it rain.
Ooh, that, yeah, she's actually singing hard. So I'm gonna make sure we don't choke that on off. So now this would be the time I say, okay, I need to go to these drums. And then, of course, you see how I have my buses already set up to where bust my toms out. That way I can get my toms under control as a whole. And I'll bust my overheads out and then kind of get rid of some of the washing that comes with slapping the mic being inside the enclosure. And you get that wash sound depending on if the microphone stand moves, if it's not enough padding inside the drum cage. A lot of variables that can go there. Then I'll go back to the bottom half of my Leslie and stuff. I'll see how much information in there. Sometimes I'll go ahead and clean it up on a little bit more. You know what I mean? Kind of clean that up. Make sure I'm not getting too much sub energy that takes away from the actual punch of the kick drum. Get rid of some of the annoying, go through, get rid of some of the annoying frequencies. The piercing frequencies, man, that kind of eat you alive, man, on organ sometimes, Get to the surgical stuff, you know what I mean? Notice how when I got rid of some of that 200, oh man, they need to get the real whoa. Because when you start bringing it up, trying to make sure it fits good inside the mix with all the vocals, it'll start muddying everything up. All right, so I'm going to end right here. Check out the next video where I have everything bust out and it's polished. So like, share, subscribe, send a message, DM. I'll, give you any tips and tricks that I have. So, man, God bless you. Have a great day. Remember, it's supposed to sound like what it's supposed to sound like.